Do you ever feel like you're stuck in this vicious cycle of needing to control life too much and being totally resistant to everything that life offers? Perhaps unable to surrender to life's challenges and experiences? The concept of surrender is often misunderstood, and it's thought of as giving up or perhaps waving the white flag or losing control. But that's not true. True surrender is a powerful tool in our spiritual journey, allowing us to conquer our fears and limitations, and we do that through actively participating in surrender. And we'll talk about what the hell that means in a minute, but it can allow us into states of more and more conditionless freedom. So how do we achieve this state of surrender? Well, it all starts with understanding that you can only surrender really to what you've already become in some way. And just like you can't skip grades in school, you can't surrender to certain aspects of life that you haven't conquered yet, that you haven't conquered inside of yourself. And we're not here to conquer things, it's just on this journey of self-development. Well, you'll know we're incessantly, probably unhealthily, wanting to grow and be the best version of ourselves. And so to do that, we have to master certain aspects of ourselves. So let me give you an example. If you haven't accomplished or conquered the fear of hard work inside of yourself, and there's lots of tamas, so laziness and inertia in your system, all of which is trying to avoid doing hard work, then naturally you can't surrender the need to do hard work. You've got to conquer it first. But when you have accomplished or conquered this fear of hard work, then that fear never really comes up anymore. So you're totally surrendered in work, in hard work. So you can let go and let life in you take over the hard work in a sense, but because there's this innate willingness. You've done it before because you've attained or you've achieved or conquered hard work as a thing in your previous efforts. It all comes down to our level of resistance, basically. And you can only surrender to something to the degree that the resistance to life in relationship to that specific thing that you're trying to surrender to is no longer within you. Now, there are three modes of experience. And the first one is this. One, you are resistant, isn't it? So there's resistance between you and the outside world, or between you and a strong sensation on the inside world. Essentially, there's a me inside that separates me from my experience. The observer is separate to the observed. And that separate one is unwilling to be involved in the experience totally. But then there's a second mode of experience where it's like we're coexisting with resistance or with strong sensations. Now we're beginning to resist less of life, but there's still a me not enjoying the experience. If you have like a dark night of the soul or strong emotions inside of the self, there's that separate one that's not enjoying the experience. And this is coexisting with resistance. It's not fully surrendered, but it's a step on the path. And then we have number three, which is merging into your experience. You blend into the experience. The observer and the observed become one and the same. There's no separation between the two, and you create flow with and merge with even uncomfortable sensations. Whatever the experience looks like, regardless of how it looks, you've transcended the conditions. This is true surrender. Depending on your willingness, though, that can take some time, and that's all good if it takes time, because we have to be compassionate towards ourselves. But it can also be done in an instant, like that. Maybe we aren't ready to feel life in its entirety yet, and that's fine. But that is the slower, more drawn-out path, and it's the path we all seem to take, and that's fine. But one is instantaneous. If you're willing to stop all of the avoidance patterns around strong sensations and just merge with it and learn to enjoy the burn, that's instantaneous, isn't it? But the end of separation and true surrender begins through feeling and merging with all experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The journey towards surrender can be a challenging one. We know this. as we're often faced with our fears and our perceived limitations, isn't it? But it's in this surrender that we begin to discover the true meaning of freedom, and this is important. Freedom is not found in conditions or circumstances, but it's actually found in transcending them. It's still going to be painful, don't get me wrong, and you're still going to be in attachments. We all are. But and so we aren't looking for perfection, but spotting these things, spotting where I'm still resistant, where I'm still attached, it becomes easier and easier. And then leaning into them so that we can set ourselves free from them becomes easier and easier until they're just done. And that's the journey, isn't it, of enlightenment, to remove that me sense, that karma. See, the resistance within us, whether it's to internal actions like thoughts, emotions, or external things like challenging environments, this resistant one, it must die in order for us to level up and be in true surrender. Now, when we surrender and let go of our fears and limitations, born of that separate self, we gain back all of the energy that was stored up in that mental contraction, and so that's nice, but we also achieve deeper levels of surrender because of it. Because we've let go of that, more energy is available to us. Because there's more of energy available to us, there's less of a me, and because there's a less of a me, there's more energy to feel, and so letting go away from that contraction in the mind, the separate sense of self, is easier. It's softens the blow, in a sense. But that brings lots of joy in the system. And we like joy. So, just to conclude, you won't find freedom in conditions, I'm sorry to say. You'll only end up bored and stagnant, and I'm speaking from personal experience. I tried to chase freedom in the external world, found some semblance of it, and realised, yeah, that isn't it. That's not what we're looking for. It's not freedom, it's attachment. So look, if you're here for freedom, not attachment, but freedom, then we want to help you. And we can show you the exact same system that we've taken hundreds of aspirants through. And if you want to know how that system works, you can access our free training series down below. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to understand more about the spiritual path, then you're going to need to understand that reality is way beyond our mental constructs. And we're going to show you how to experience that and decondition the illusory self in this video here.